Hi, everyone. I'm Brian Kinley with Asthma Scuba here in Rockford, Illinois. And again, we have another series for interesting and amazing divers in bringing you some information. And something close to my heart is about history and archaeological finds in the water. This is Greg Jolley out of Virginia. So, Greg, tell us a little bit about yourself and what you're presenting.
Tonight we're going to talk about, and I want to open up a dialogue with everybody. It's not just me presenting, giving you a lecture. Um, we're going to talk about what people can do to get involved with take their diving to a new level, to get involved with different things that they can do underwater, letting diving become their transport medium to performing something underwater. We're going to talk about history. We're going to talk about archaeology. We're going to talk about projects, training available, and things that the citizen scientist can do without that PhD in a specific function.
What got you started into doing archaeological finds?
I was told no.
Hmm.
I had a bunch of registered archaeologists just simply say, no, you can't do that. You're not a trained archaeologist. So I went and asked the next logical question. Okay, doctor, your students, your grad students and your undergrad students, they're not trained archaeologists, but they're performing tasks that you tell them to. How is that any different than a diver who spends a lot of time becoming a professional, working up the chain in diving to learning these tasks and working under the auspices of a registered professional archaeologist? How is that any different than your graduate students?
And so, what became of that? You were able to put together programs for people.
Yes,
Just your average diver can come and actually
yes,
perform the skills.
yes, absolutely. Because I took a look at what organizations in the United States say that this is what archaeological diving should be. These are the tasks and techniques they should know how to do. This is the things they should perform and the results they should be getting, or at least how they document their results. So I said, okay, well, we can do that. So under some of the major training agencies, both NAUI, PADI, UDT, and a couple others, we have built programs that the person out there in the field can dive. You don't have to be a Navy diver. You don't have to be a registered archaeologist. You just have to have somebody with a passion. And if we can find somebody with a passion, they can take that archaeology and find something that sometimes the professional can't, because they don't have the same confirmation bias.
So, how do we get our viewers to that point? What kind of education do you have?
Well, I'm a NAUI course director, PADI IDC staff instructor. Uh, I work out of Alexandria, Virginia, and I spend a lot of my time in the Potomac River. We go places where people don't want to go. You know, it's cold, it's dark, but our nation's history is there. So we chase it. But training wise, we in volunteer organizations that are out there, for one big one is the Institute for Maritime History, which is out of Maryland. That's the one I am the dive safety officer for. I just volunteered to be the DSO one day, and it just grew. So we started developing dive safety programs. We developed very specific training programs to get our people ready to go jump in the Potomac. And for those of you that aren't familiar with the Potomac, if you had coffee this morning or tea, that's probably what it's going to look like. On a good day, the visibility is going to be 2 to 3 feet. On a bad day, the front of your faceplate.
We have similar kind of waters around here, and I
Yeah.
want to point out to those who are listening in that please ask some questions because as we go along, we'll be answering your questions a little later on. But please send those questions in because Greg, you were talking about the education stuff. So what involves the education? What does it look like for somebody to try to get involved to see some of the things you're going to talk about here shortly?
Well, one, you have to be a diver. No, none of these volunteer organizations are looking for you to be a professional. You just have to have a passion for diving and be willing to dive safely and perform a task. That's it. And we seek out divers that have kind of worked their way up through the civilian world, because they still are learning. They have a good mentality and a good focus that, hey, there's always something else out there to learn. So I don't seek out the people that are rigid in their thought and their mentality. The diving world is changing every day as we speak. The underwater world changes, and we must adapt to it. So we adapt our techniques. We adapt the way we approach a project, the way we do things as divers.
So, on the technical side, does it go beyond if we have an open water or advanced or a rescue diver and who's competent in the water, outside of what training you provide for those tasks? It's not anything drastic. We're not jumping into a huge realm. It actually is very wide open for just about anybody.
No, it's the realm that I'm speaking of is for the recreational diver. That single tank diver that's going to strap on an 80, that's going to go down to 40, 50, 60 feet at the most, spend 30 minutes, 20 minutes down there if they're on nitrox, and perform a task.
Perfect. And you'd be able to outline that to them. And so I could basically grab a group of people here and say, hey, we want to come out to one of your sites, which you just finished with one of your sites, correct?
Yes, we just finished a project about November of last year. We're kind of finishing up all the paperwork and doing the final report writing. But it was a U-1105, which is a U-boat that's in the Potomac River. So we finished mapping that one. The last time it was mapped, it was in 1994. So we worked with the state of Maryland. We worked with the local volunteer group. And we just sent divers out to support that operation. And they collected data on the ship.
A U-boat. Now that's German, right? So
yes.
Give us a little history on that part.
Okay. No, the U-boat did not travel up the Potomac as under its own power. The U-1105 Black Panther was actually caught and captured off the coast in the Atlantic in 42. It had, and I don't know if I'm pronouncing this correctly, but it had Albarect. It's a rubber coating that dampened the effect of sonar. So it returned or did not send enough bounce back to give a good signature as to what the object was. That's kind of how stealth technology works today. So they were doing that. The Germans were pioneering those concepts back in the 40s.
And so they actually brought that up there, correct, to do some research at that time on the U-boats?
They wanted to see how close they could get to the United States. And boy, it was just a few miles off the coast off the coast of the Atlantic that they were able to capture this one. The British used it for about a year, 43, early 44, did all the research they needed to do on that, and then gave us the ship, and then gave us the crew, and then we worked our World War II magic on the crew and gained a lot of information. It also had information on the Enigma machine, which we were also looking for. So we were able to get information on different Enigma machines and coded messages and how if anybody's familiar with the way the Enigma works, it's a series of rotor dials. So you have to know where to start and set the dials so that when the messages and numbers come in, the machine will decode that for you.
Yes. So, and for your having just finished this project, why all of a sudden did you have to get in the water to actually find this thing all over again and catalog it?
Well, actually, one of the archaeologists in Maryland had gotten a research grant. The last time it was cataloged was in 1994, but they wanted to see the degradation of the U-boat. They wanted to see, what's going on, what's growing on it, what's still there. I mean, there are several organizations that'll take divers out there to see it. If anybody Googles U-1105 in the Potomac, you'll see many videos taken by some of the organizations that we dive with. It's like diving in chocolate milk.
But you've had other stuff that's not so much chocolate milk and actually dates back to Revolutionary and Civil War, right?
Yes, actually, we were able to find some Dahlgren guns, and we gave that information to the Naval Heritage and Historical Command, who were on board the vessel at the time when we found the Dahlgren guns. He said it should be in this area. We were searching. We found the sloop. What they were doing was moving the guns from one side of the river to another to affect the blockade. and we were able to find that. And I thought it was interesting when I was kind of being a little smart alecky, and I said, "Well, doctor, there is nothing there belonging to the United States Navy." And he looked at me and said, "You're going to go with that?" And I said, "Yeah, that's my final answer." He said, "I want you to look up the Congressional Act of 1934, and then let's revisit this conversation." So what that boils down to is all Confederate veterans were reassessed back into the United States military. So Confederate Navy was now U.S. military, so that was considered U.S. Navy property.
U.S. naval property, yes. What other projects you've got some lined up for the future, right? For the next year or so?
Yes, I do have one coming up two of them actually coming up. We're going to start in October, going back to the Potomac. We are looking at a Revolutionary War project. In 1776, Lord Dunmore was the last royal appointed governor that was run out of the colonies, run out of Richmond, and out of Virginia. So he took a bunch of ships, went up the Potomac, but he was met by the colonists from Baltimore coming down the Potomac. There was a naval engagement in a wide area that's 2 miles by 2 miles wide. It's a large, wide area where two parts of the Potomac, the Pax River, there's a confluence, and it's a large, wide area where it dumps into that. There was a battle there. He burned most of his ships. From that burning, he consolidated what was left. There was a lot of smoke in the air, so he was able to escape. He ended up going south, was in the Caribbean, and was the governor of one of the British Caribbean colonies till he died in the 1820s. But we think we found that location. Our organization, the Institute for Maritime History, has gotten a grant from the state. So we're going to start in the fall cataloging that area. And we've got a bunch of sonar hits. So during the off seasons, our research vessel will travel along, and we call it mowing the grass. So if you think about the ship traveling along, and what it's doing is it's doing a sonar image as it travels, and then it's going to move over one. It's going to move over one. So it's kind of like mowing the grass. And then we take that area and we analyze it for what could be worth diving on.
So is that what you're doing this fall?
The water is precious.
So you're figuring out where to go.
We've done that all this spring and summer, and then this fall we're going to do it. We find that the water is a little bit clear. Yeah. The water's a little bit clearer in the wintertime or in the fall time. And then we only have 2 times a day during slack tide to actually go in there, because as the water is moving and flowing, there's a lot of turbidity, so the visibility is zero. So by finding it in slack tide, we've got about 45 minutes to do.
Are you expecting this project to go how long? A few weeks, a month?
Oh, I'm expecting this to be a 2-year project. We will do diving this fall, and probably early winter next year as well. Depends on what
Are you looking for volunteers to be able to fill in the gaps as far as having people out there to look for
Yes. The IMH, the Institute for Maritime History, it's Institute for Maritime History, all one word, .org, is always looking for volunteers.
Okay. So, and then what type of training are they going to need to have to be able to volunteer for this type of project?
They're going to need a class in maritime archaeology and a class in blackwater archaeology, both courses which we developed specifically for our Potomac River divers, but those skill sets are applicable to anywhere. If you can do it, if you can dive in coffee, you can dive in the clear waters of the Caribbean.
How long does each of those classes take?
Each of them are a week long. We've set them up so that the professional, the busy professional, can work on them. The academic portions for the maritime archaeology class is 6 to 9, 6 to 10 at night, Monday through Friday. Then we take them to the lake. You just showed pieces of that video there. We take them to the lake, and then we let them practice in a debris field in the lake. And then they also practice on a 3-dimensional object. That's the boat where they practice. So yes, that right there. They'll practice setting baselines, taking measurements, and then for the blackwater archaeology piece, we take them back to the same spot, but yet this time, as soon as they descend upon the craft, will black out their mask, or at least at the buoy marker, they'll switch to a blackout mask, descend down to the marker, down to the buoy, and start their run. The idea is to simulate in a safe environment where I have safety divers around watching them, doing everything by touch.
We had discussed actually seeing about having you come out here to actually perform a few of those classes for our people if they're interested. So again, anybody who's listening in and is actually interested in probably being involved in future archaeological digs with Greg or other organizations would like to take these classes, please reach out, because we're looking at trying to put together a class maybe next summer, and then maybe get you on some of these. Do you have any other projects beyond the one that you were just talking about?
Yes, IMH was asked to work on a colonial era ship that's in New Hampshire. So we're not going to be that far offshore. It's about 100, 150 yards offshore. There's a colonial era ship in one of the bays that we're going to go this September. So starting next month, our team will start its train up. We will run training cycles. We figure the water is going to be fairly chilly at 60 to 65 degrees. That's probably balmy to where you guys are.
That's nice.
Yeah, but here it's chilly, so we would be in 7 mils, dry suits, hoods, and gloves. Because the working diver at 40 to 45 feet is going to be spending about 30 to 35 minutes down there. So I expect them to be able to perform the task. They have to do it in hoods and gloves. They're going to have to do it in a time constraint, because it's not only just diving and looking around and, oh, this is wonderful. I have a task to perform. And in that task, I have goals and objectives to get. So the problem with most people, we all get this way, is when we become task focused, we tend to forget about our air. So the way we've built the team, you've got 2 to 3 people working a piece, and then other people are tasked with safety aspects of it. So whoever the supervisor is for that team is going to be concerned about their air consumption, the environment, and making sure that those divers are paying attention to those things.
So how long has this been going on, this program that you've been working on with archaeological digging? How long is this program?
We've been doing this. I've been involved in it since 2007. That's when I got involved with the IMH, and I went on a dive with them, and I kind of saw, we need to work on some safety techniques. So we started working, and we found out that you have to be very careful in working with volunteers. Everything is inclusive with volunteers, because they can volunteer in and they can volunteer out. So safety is the number one priority. After that, our tenets in the club are no talk, no take. Meaning we don't take things off the wreck unless the credible authority or the archaeologist on site says you could take a piece of this for sampling. Now, this is one chance we're going to get to do this in New Hampshire. We are going to do some dendrochronology, where we are going to cut pieces of timber to ensure that this is the correct wreck. Does the wood that we find, is it of the right period? Because there's multitudes of wrecks in these places. So we're trying to find a specific one.
So this has been going on. You've been a part of this for roughly 16 years. And obviously there's a lot of other programs. I mean, so somebody gets involved in this, this could be a long-term, like any, when they have the moments and they say, yeah, there's a project coming up. This is something that they could do for quite a few years to come.
Oh, absolutely. When we set the call out to our volunteers, I have a list of multiple organizations where we have volunteers for. I think it was 85 different names of that. About 20 of them said, yes, I think I can do it. Once we lock the dates in, that's down to about 6. So when you think about it, I mean, you have to work around volunteers and their schedules. About 6 people have been able to say we can do the whole 2 weeks while we're there. We're going to be there in 17th of September and run for 2 weeks. So we'll see how that shakes out. But we've also figured out how to rotate people in and out. I've got some divers that have trained with us for years that I trust very well to perform the tasks and to be safety guys. and gals. So, I've got a couple of people that are just coming off of surgery, but still want to volunteer. So they're going to be topside collecting data as the diver comes up and performing the on-site narrow surveys as we go through each one of these and make sure the divers are safe. And then we collect and aggregate all their data that they've collected.
That was a question I was going to have. You have positions that they don't have to always be in the water. So if somebody's not totally comfortable and they still want to kind of feel things out, they could actually do a topside run and get an understanding of how the program runs and what could be asked of them.
Right, exactly. So we've figured out on our projects there are a multitude of things. We do have some people that are within the Institute that have never gotten on the boat. They've never gone to the research vessel, but they spend their time at the library, the Congressional Library, the National Archives. If you're going to get a library card, I'd get the one from, I'd get the Library of Congress. But anyway, they spend all their time doing research, and then they'll sit down with us and say, okay, well, this is the research we've done. Because you never see a wreck that's going to be pristine or it's going to look like the movies show. Unless, of course, you go to your neck of the woods in the Great Lakes where they're all down there at extreme depths, extreme temperatures, and they're perfect.
Yeah, we've got over 5,000 wrecks in the Great Lakes here, and quite a few of them because of the cold, and they're not oxygenated, and
that's something we also learn. What I've learned in dealing with volunteers and seeking them out is the volunteer will bring a minimum of 2 skill sets to the table, whatever their job is, whatever their passion is, and then their diving skills. So I've got a friend of mine who is retired from the Army, was an aviator by trade, also a lawyer, but chose to serve in the Army. He wasn't a lawyer for the Army, but his passion is filmmaking. So he does the filming for us. So we kind of bring our own document team with us to document that. His thing is he likes to tell a story. And he likes to do it on film, so to speak. So we've embraced that passion. I find other people are so focused on very, very specific tasks. I'm only going to need you for about 3 days. I need you to come during these 3 days because what you want to do, the time and the effort you want to give to your specific passion is this. And then we have other people that are like, just tell me what you need. I'll go do it. So, they if you can find somebody with a passion, they want to be there. They want to do this. They're going to take the time and the effort to learn. And as long as they do it safely underwater, we're happy.
I know from our group, we have a large group of people who are very safe. We really pride ourselves in being safe, conscientious, both about each other, about what we're doing, but really would like to branch out and do something more with diving. And they're used to the cold. They're used to low visibility and stuff like that. I know that a lot of them are interested in doing this. So on that same note, you're talking about telling a story. Outside of the guns you found, anything out there you want to tell us about this significant find or something that was just kind of that amazing moment that you got to see?
The U-boat, the guns, the World War II wrecks. We did work a project back in 2014 that I found. There was the Liberty ships that were getting built for World War I. They were supposed to transport troops and materials, but by the time the U.S. entered the war, it was 1917. So most of the ships didn't sail over there. They built over 430 of those ships from different places across the country. They were brought to the East Coast, and then by the time the war ended, they scrapped most of it. Most of those ships are now sitting scrapped in the Potomac. So we cataloged those ships. We were able to find a few things to determine what ships by name. We turned all that data over to the SHPO, the State Historic Preservation Officer, and the archeologist from Maryland. And then we turned our final report over to them, and they ran with the ball, and we were able to give testimony. We got it through Congress. The president signed off on it being a national marine sanctuary. So now NOAA administers a 7-mile gap in the Potomac as a National Marine Sanctuary.
So I guess my next question is going beyond the Potomac in that area. You're talking about New Hampshire. What other? I know I actually talked to a woman that actually works to find the remains from World War II planes, stuff like that, all over the world. Also, just recently, Val. But organizations out there that would utilize these skills, that they would take the training from you and could utilize those skills to what other places?
Yeah, a few years ago, we worked a project in Germany. We were asked by the Defense POWMIA Accounting Agency as a volunteer organization, because we spend our time in cold, dark water, to go to Germany and identify a B-17 that was shot down in 1945. We were able to identify the aircraft. Two of the crewmen did not get out. The others did. So we were able to identify the aircraft. The DPAA is working on building out closure for the families and that sort of thing. So we're not going to go into too much detail about that. But it was so funny, because when we prepped our divers for that, they thought I was crazy. I took them to the Air and Space Museum here and put them in blackout masks, put the snorkel in their mouth, and told them to go touch a B-17. And they're like, "You're crazy. Go touch the B-17. Put your hands on it. Now put your gloves on and put your hands on the aircraft." Because we were specifically trying to figure out, is this the right aircraft? Because it was a debris field. It wasn't just a plane that had crashed in the water and it looks like a plane on the bottom. It looks like a bunch of junk on the bottom, a bunch of twisted metal and wreckage. And then that particular type of pond, or that body of water that we were in, did not have a lot of outflow. So, but it did kind of sort of drain from the bottom, and then all the runoff kept it filled. But there was like a layer of pea green soup, or green pea soup, whatever you want to call it. But it was just a nice thick layer that was kind of about 10 to 12 feet down. Then you had to pass through that to get underneath it, and there was no light after that. But we figured out that the bubbles would break this open, and we could start to get some light in there. So we took extra tanks down and created bubblers while we were working the debris field so that we could get some ambient light. We were only in about 35, 40 feet of water, but it was a big wreckage pile. So we were trying to look for the data plate. So we were all touching the troop doors and the handles and the sides, and we knew where the data plate would be when the aircraft was manufactured and flying. So then I had them sit down and describe everything they've touched. I said, now turn it upside down. If you find that door, you find that fuselage or that tail, and it's upside down now, where is that? How is that door going to be? And where are the things? So they had to visualize in their heads, if the door is upright and I'm doing this, and I know it's right here. Okay, I know it's right here on the door. If it's going to be upside down, now it is, okay, let me do this on the camera. Yeah, now it's going to be in the upper right-hand corner if you find a piece of that door. We were able to find a piece of the data plate. We were able to take a picture and verify that the aircraft wreckage was the correct wreckage. And then we just began mapping what we could, a lot of sketching, a lot of measurements. And the lead archaeologist with us had brought some really cool remote sensing gear, and they had made this great colored chart that looked like an aircraft. So we were kind of filling in pieces of the wreckage to that and say, okay, well, this what an aircraft looks like. All right, let's superimpose what the wreckage is there. So we started drawing in bits and pieces and going, okay, the tail looks like this. Pieces of wing are over here. Hey, there's a portion of the cockpit, or at least the canopy is over here. This looks like a piece of a propeller. So we were able to fill in a lot of those blanks. And we came back on day 4, I believe it was, and said, okay, we've identified the aircraft. And he's like, there's no way you can identify the aircraft after 4 days. I said, yes, there's a way. You know, I'm willing to bet you a glass of your favorite. He's like, you're on. Okay. And I showed him the picture, and he's like, oh, God, I guess I'm buying rounds tonight. We had found the data plate, but he was like, how did you take a picture of it underwater? I said, I used some top-notch technology. I displaced the water underwater and took a picture with my little camera. How'd you manage to do that? We took a small plastic bag, filled it with clear water, placed it up against the object, and took a picture right behind it through the clear water. And I said, that's in your archaeology books. From 1957, George Bass wrote about that. Oh, yeah, it's called a Brody bag. Oh, and then the light went off, and he goes, you read those books? I said, we have to start somewhere.
Right.
And that developed a great relationship between us and some of the other folks. And they're like, okay, I see what you guys are capable of doing. And the story is just to tell people, if you're passionate about something, you're willing to go the extra mile to learn about something, to go out and do it, then yeah, your contributions are certainly valuable, and they can be valuable. And it's not just our organizations here on the East Coast. There are organizations across the country that people can get involved in.
I was going to say, you're talking about the relationships, and that's where I was going to go to next, is that you're going to develop relationships throughout the country to get a part of different digs, different organizations, different things out there. And that's really what diving is about, right? It's about those connections to the next step and then expanding on those things. Even for the novice diver on up, there's something for everybody.
Yes, there is. And I invite people that are interested in doing that to come dive with us. Oh, excuse me, I apologize. To come dive with us, to volunteer at your local organization. We have several in this area, but there are other organizations across the country. If you're interested in looking for finding missing remains of service people, Bent Prop is another good one. I volunteer with BARIG, which stands for Battle of the Atlantic Research and Expedition Group. They focus pretty much on the Atlantic and where the U-boats were either captured or destroyed. And then IMH is all about the Potomac and the waterways around the east coast of the United States. So there's multitude of things for people to get involved in. Don't let somebody tell you no because you don't have this specialty training. Remember, every expert out there had to learn from somebody somewhere.
Exactly. You had to start somewhere. That's why I try to tell my people when I first learned to dive. I'm like, I sat in these same seats. I still have the same emotions you still have. It doesn't change. So we're all in this together.
As long as we're focused on a task and we do it safely, let's go have fun.
Yes. Now I see Sarah starting to I got to put my glasses on, unfortunately, because I'm blind, I guess. That she's going to start giving us some questions here. I don't know if you can see them, but I'd like to see what kind of questions we have out there that we can ask Greg. So Mitch, see, what technology was used to locate the aircraft?
There was some satellite imagery that was used, and then we used sonars and magnetometers. Once some of the remote sensing gear was a sub-bottom profiler that Dr. Clausen brought out, and he used a magnetometer to determine that this is the correct metal, and then a couple of towfish sonars to narrow down the field of where we needed to look.
So I got a question then. So some of these finds, are they known areas or possible known areas, or are these things that people have found just arbitrarily and actually reported back? Or
yes, in this particular case in Germany, a lot of research was done with the locals saying, yes, there's an American aircraft in this water. Germans have seen it for years. We used to dive on it. So that's where the doctor went after that.
Nice. And like you see, you're talking about Bent Prop, and I can't remember the organization that I was just talking to a woman about. They were working over in Palau and different areas. So there's a lot of organizations out there. Mm-hmm. Do we have another? Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
About diving with a purpose.
Yes, exactly. And expanding what you're involved in to have something that isn't just about taking a vacation and actually becoming a part of something.
Yes. And in the same, okay. Which site?
Yeah, he's asking. So Michael's asking, how accessible was the site, and was it very molested by other divers? And then it was a big recreational diving in that country.
Okay. So you're speaking of Germany. Yes, other divers have been there. Germans have dove on that for years. We were just trying to verify it was the aircraft that was shot down in 45, and we were able to do that. I don't know what they took or what they didn't take, but no, we were able to cordon off the place for about a week, and we had strict access to the site before it was opened back up again, because it's in one of their national parks, if you will. It's considered a park, public lands. So, yeah, we were able to get strict access to it for about a week.
And I know we were talking, you and I, off camera before, about some of the sites that you have in the Potomac, for example, that you don't want to tell people where they're at. You as the group go there, you get to investigate it, but other than that, it's pretty much nobody talks about it, right?
No, we don't talk about it. I'll say, the Dahlgren guns were found in the Potomac. If you do your research in history, you can kind of figure out where those guns would have been or should have been for the protection of DC at the time. But pretty far south of DC to keep some of the larger ships from getting up into the Potomac.
But the fact that somebody's volunteering, they're actually a part of something that actually, that's kept, under wraps, and they're trying to investigate it, trying to research it, and being a part of something of history, of our national history.
Yeah. Yeah. We have a loosely held NDA that we promised to sign. We sign and promise not to talk about. Yes, you can talk about the things you've done. Just don't tell people where they are, because there's no protection from that site. If somebody wanted to go there under the cover of darkness, of course, that's a 9-foot cannon that's 1.5 feet in diameter. That's, it's going to be hard to sneak out in the middle of the night. But,
you give somebody a task, so they're going to try to figure something out, right? So we have another one. So Sarah, she wants to talk about the Explorers Club and the importance it is to you.
Okay. I joined the Explorers Club a few years ago. And, for the longest time, I was thinking, I'm not one of those guys that have gone out and done a polar expedition, or I'm not a Shackleton or a Byrd, or all of those people that have notoriety. And then a friend of mine who was in the club said, yes, you do. You just don't have the right publicist. I said, oh, okay. So I applied, and I was accepted for membership. The Explorers Club has a rich history of people that are getting grants, they're getting information, they're getting support and resources, and then they go out and research things. It's not just diving, but that was my niche. That was my in, if you will. I do scientific diving. I've done these, and I've done a lot of my work in the Potomac itself. So I figured nobody else is going. I can be that guy. Nice. Plus, it's easy on the weekends. If the research vessel was in the water, I could just drive right over, get on the boat, grab a few people, and let's go do our work. So
the Explorers Club, a lot of people may not understand exactly what that is. The Explorers Club is actually an international club.
It's a global organization that was founded in 1904 out of New York, when a lot of the big explorers of the time of the 1890s and the early 1900s got together and wanted a forum so that they could discuss their finds and their research. So they created the Explorers Club, and those that go out and explore and find things or do research. And it's a research organization. So it's all about people and the history of the world. And it's all about people that are going out to find new things, do new things, and provide new knowledge that's out there. And it's open and available to folks. It's not just those that do diving. It's not just those that climb mountains or hike the Amazon rainforest to find a particular bug.
I would say, but diving is actually what kind of got you that position, right? I always like the fact that the seed of everything that we're talking about started off with deciding to become a diver.
Yes, everything that a lot of the successes I enjoy today are because I was passionate about diving. I took a class in college in 1985 and been hooked ever since.
I started in 1991, so I'm
Yeah,
right
you're
there
right.
behind you. And that's what I'm saying for a lot of the people that are listening, and they may be just starting, or they've only been diving a few years, or maybe have 20, 30 dives under their belt. And it all starts from that seed, right? It all starts from that beginning. And then what you decide to do forward from there is what really defines it all in the end. You don't feel like you're excluded by any means, because we all had to start off there. And so that you've already started the seed, so keep moving forward.
Exactly. I want people to know that you can join these organizations. Uh, all you have to do is have a passion for something.
Right. So, and if we decide to put together some kind of a class here, you're saying it's about a week long, right? You're looking
Yeah.
for 5 to 10 people
Yeah.
that would want to be a part of this program, and yours or any other program for that matter. I mean, it's just when we can look at doing something like that. So, tell us the name of the organization, or what the teaching how you're teaching, and what you would give them as instruction.
Oh, the course is called Maritime Archaeology. I do it under NAUI. They can get a PADI card. We have the, we have it approved through both organizations. What they're going to learn how to do is research. They're going to learn how to do a little bit of project management. They're going to learn how to what is considered a cultural resource, what is important. We'll talk a little bit about ships, and then we're going to go in there and start mapping things. They'll learn how to do basic mapping underwater. It's people look at it and go, oh, you're just laying down a tape measure and taking some measurements. Yeah, take a look at that. That's in clear, fairly warm water, and that's they're having trouble keeping the tape taut. So are we trying to go down to the inch, to the half inch? How detailed do we want this to be? And then how do I measure something? This is just a training site where I've got some advanced course divers just doing a basic mapping exercise. And they're finding out the difficulties of buoyancy. A little bit of, it's a quarry, but the quarry is spring fed. So there's a small current in there. So it's not like they can just hang.
Hover, yeah.
There's a little bit of current. And then
if they have,
the visibility goes to a lot less.
That's pretty much what we deal with here. So if they wanted to contact you and had questions, or if your organization, what would be the best way to have them reach out and find more information?
If they wanted to reach out, I partner with a group called Blue Octopus Scuba. I would reach out to them because they would contact me and say, hey, I've got these people that are interested in this class, or want to know more about this class. And then I have curriculum sheets to say this is what we teach, how we teach, how to be part of a team, what to expect, how to do 2-dimensional, 3-dimensional mapping, how to prepare your slate, how to do the drawing, what type of measurements to use, and how to adapt things for underwater.
And that's the stuff we were discussing about getting from you. So they'd actually have here too. So yes, they can reach out and ask questions and see if you want to get involved in that.
Yeah.
So, yep, she's got it up there. She's actually put that. There you go.
Just go to that. It's info@blueoctopusscuba.com, and they will get in touch with me, and I'll be more than happy to speak to or email or work with anybody and show them what's available and what's out there.
Or like I said, if you want to do it here locally, we'll put it together and we'll get you in contact with Greg and do all the same stuff. So that'd be great because we've got some really cool wrecks to do here. Yeah.
Why not partner? And then we come out and do why don't we map one of your wrecks?
Yeah, it'd be great. You got some great stuff in Great Lakes. We have some days you got 50-foot visibility there. Some days not so much, but it is a balmy 44 degrees at depth. I will say that. It's nice and warm. It's like having a Mai Tai on the beach down at 44 degrees.
Perfect.
So, and then Mitch is like, I use a dry suit, no problem, even in the pool with the filter on. He does actually. He gets very cold, and he likes to wear a dry suit even in the pool. So
no, we've got people like that in the middle of the summer. They will still be in a dry suit. So I get it.
They laugh at me. I'm a big wuss. I like to wear my dry suit all the time also. So anything else you want to add that I didn't cover or think about?
No, I just if people want to use their diving to more than just, oh, this is a great reef, archaeology or citizen science is another way. And under citizen science, there are organizations out there that do coral reef restoration. There are several organizations you go to Florida and volunteer with, and they'll show you how to string and put coral into growing pods. And then a year later, you'll come back and transplant that onto the reef. So
we did that in Honduras, actually. I worked with a group down there. So we had gone down there and actually shown them, actually epoxied some new pieces of staghorn coral down, and we set that on. So,
yeah, so there are multitudes of opportunities out there for people to get involved. And it's kind of ecotourism and an eco vacation where I'm doing something that's fun. It's out of the ordinary and good for the environment.
okay. She's going to, I have to read these things. I don't know if, can you read that? She's going to have a video going here shortly. So we're still on for a little bit. But yeah, that's what I'm saying. I want people to know that there's so much more out there than just jumping in the local lake or something like that. I want to see them with volunteering with you. I would like to be out there because history is my passion. I'd like to be a part of finding and archaeology and mapping out some of these things out there. I'm already dry suit. I'm all ready to go. So I'm ready to jump in.
Sure. Me too.
So, but I really appreciate you coming on with this. I really love the questions we had going on. This will be on YouTube, so people can see this later on. So pass this on to your group out there. There's a lot of good information you were giving us. I think it was awesome. I really appreciate it. I know my people that are watching out there, they appreciate what you had to say, and hopefully.
Oh, absolutely. And why don't we set something up for the future where we come out and map a wreck in your neck of the woods?
I would love that. I think that's great.
Done before, you've seen it before. I'm sure you've taken people to wrecks. Why not? Let's do a little research on the wreck. Let's do a little bit of archaeological mapping, and then you create slates and books and pictures and say, well, this is what our group, our club has done to map this particular wreck in our neighborhood.
Yeah, actually, I love the dredge. I think the dredge, because that's a bigger one, but I think that's a great one. It's in like 85 foot of water. Otherwise, there's some shallower ones out there, but Lake Michigan that I think the Willow would be too deep. But yeah, there's some really neat stuff out here we do.
Historical significance, and then there's multitude of organizations in your area that are all about archaeology and the archaeology of their area. So
there's a huge archaeological group that's actually out of Madison area that actually work the Great Lakes. So yes, getting some training. There is even organizations here locally that we can actually get involved with. So don't think it's just a narrow scope by any means.
No, there's a multitude of nonprofits out there that people can volunteer with, and I encourage that. Take your passion, take your diving skills, go be a citizen scientist.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid of that word. I say when they say, "Are you a professional?" Well, do I get paid for it? No, but I have a passion for it.
Right. Yeah, the experience, the expertise. Just because you don't get paid for it doesn't make you a non-professional.
Right.
That's a misnomer.
Agreed. I do. Yeah, you're right about that. But we're professional divers. We're professionals in other ways. So, but it's all about taking your passion and finding something to do with that energy. And diving is a great way to get to the job.
Yes. So I think it's time for. Do we have to switch over to you, Sarah? I don't know which. Where's she at? I lost her there.
Enough.
I left my pooch at the house. I had to put.
Mine are running around in the other room. So
she's gonna. I think she's gonna flip on the video here.
Okay.
But hang with me, Greg. So don't leave me. Just I'm gonna let her do her thing. But no, this was great, and I thank everyone for watching. Awesome. And I'd love to get some more questions out there, and we'll pass them on to Greg, and we'll get some information. So awesome.
I'll send you some sheets, and then you can pass that out to your folks, and we can go from there.
Perfect. Awesome.